Right, Shalom. First, I'd like to give all praises unto Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, and double honors unto the apostles and elders of GreatMillStone, and honors to you brothers out there in the highways and the byways teaching this word in all sincerity and in truth. And yeah, I just want to respond to this video here from Blackstone Intelligence, Jerusalem, the cup of trembling that intoxicates the world. And this is a good video. He goes into a lot of history, and a lot of what he brings out is very accurate. And there's an argument out there as to who does Jerusalem belong to? Who has the inheritance of Jerusalem? Well, the cold hard facts in regards to that is that Jerusalem belongs to the children of Israel, the children of Jacob, as an inheritance. And it don't matter who's living there now or for how long they've been living there and this, that, and the other. At the end of the day, Jerusalem, as well as the rest of the land of the promise, is the inheritance of the children and the seed of Israel, point blank, period. All right. Did the Canaanites live in the land of Israel before Israel? Yes. Is that land their inheritance? No. And it's very simple. We got to go back to the source. All right. This is Deuteronomy 10 and 14. It says, "Behold, the heaven and the heaven of heavens is the Lord's thy God." All right. Now, the Lord, when it says the Lord's thy God, it's talking about Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai. It says, "The earth also with all that therein is." All right. So the entire earth and everything on this earth belongs to Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai. Yeah. Let's see if you can get a little image up of the globe. So I like to do little images, man. Let's type in the earth. All right. This is the earth, and then flat earthers are going to get angry, but I don't care. The earth, all right. Everything on the earth belongs to the Lord. Let's see if we can get a little gift going here. See the earth spinning around. There we go. All right. You see that? All the continents, Africa, Oceania, Asia, Europe, North America, South America, Central America, Antarctica, the Arctic, that which is in the sky, that which is in the sea, that which is on land. It all belongs to Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai. And as it pertains to men, the Lord is the one that divides unto men their inheritances of that land. All right. Let's get that in Deuteronomy 32. All right. This is Deuteronomy 32 and 8. When the Most High divided to the nations their inheritance. So the different nations, the Lord divided them their inheritances, which was mainly in and around the Middle East, North Africa, and Europe. When you go back to the original inheritances, all the different nations received their inheritances around surrounding the Middle East. When you go back into Genesis, the 10th chapter, and so forth. All right, so hold on. When you go, let's see if I can get a little image of ancient Bible map or something. You see what I'm talking about. All right, so this map here kind of shows what I'm talking about. All right, so you had Europe, which was mainly inhabited in the southern parts by the children of Japhet. All right, as you see there in green, and then you got Shem. All right, the different inheritances, which obviously there were more nations that came out of Shem, like Moab, like Ammon, but these were all situated in and around the Middle East, right? Then you get the Hamitic nations, right? So the Lord divided to all the different nations their inheritances. But guess what? It says when the Most High divided to the nations their inheritance. So every nation has a place. And every nation will have a place except one nation. And that nation is the nation of Edom. Even though the Lord gave Esau or Edom, the land of Edom, as an inheritance. And guess what? The Lord is going to take it away. And that land is going to be given unto the tribe of Judah. Because the Edomites are going to be exterminated pursuant to Obadiah, the 18th chapter, man. Okay? So they're going to be out of there. So apart from them, all peoples have an inheritance in this earth. Even the animals have inheritances. Come on. The Lord hath provided a place for all things. All right? It says, when he separated the sons of Adam, because all nations are rightfully divided according to patriarchs that the Lord set up from the descendants of Adam, namely through Noah. And that's how it's going to go back to. See, right now, you got a lot of bywords and, you know, people are going on the, you know, different names like Kurds. I mean, what the hell is a Kurd? You know, even they can't even fully define what a Kurd is. You got peoples all over the world that are going by names which really have no traceable heritage, man. See, all people are really supposed to have, every person on this earth is ultimately supposed to know their identity based upon their lineage. And it's going to go back to that in the kingdom of heaven. In the kingdom of heaven, when we gather together these nations, we're gonna actually divide up the nations again according to the inheritances, according to their lineages. So we're gonna divide up Moab with Moab, Ammon with Ammon, and put them into their proper understanding of their history. All right, because in the kingdom of heaven, everything is gonna be in order. Everything is gonna be done in decency and in order. Unlike in this world where you got a lot of confusion. Like I said, you got a group of people in the Middle East called the Kurds. So who was the Kurds? Who was their father? You'll probably find that the Kurds is just a mix and match of all kind of different peoples put together under one dumb name. Some of you gonna have Israelites in among them call themselves Kurds or whatever the hell. You know, it's just there's a lot of madness in this side of the world. But that's gonna be done away with. We're gonna put the nations back into their proper identities and into their proper lands where they belong. And they're going to stay in them lands. And there ain't going to be no wars and all these things, people trying to steal other people's lands and remove the landmarks. That's not going to happen in the kingdom of heaven. All right. He said he set the bounds of the people according to the number of the children of Israel. For the Lord's portion is his people. Jacob is the lot of his inheritance. So the prized and the chosen and the choice of the nations, right, is Israel. All right. So the Lord decided all of that. All right. Now, when you go into our forefather Abraham, let me just get that up. All right. So we want to jump to Genesis, the 15th chapter. Now, you got to understand that at this point in time, all right, the lineage that Abraham came out of didn't have their own inheritances. They were pretty much what was known as sojourner among other peoples. So you had Abraham and his father, they were Hebrews. They came out of the line of Eber, but they were living in the land of the Chaldeans, which the Chaldeans, that portion of land was not Hebrew in inheritance. So they were Hebrews living among the Chaldeans. All right. They were Hebrews that were living among the Chaldean the region, right? But it wasn't their inherited lands. All right. So then when we go into Genesis, the 15th chapter, it says, and behold, the word of the Lord came unto him, saying, this, let me jump down a bit. Because we could go further into it, how the Lord came to Abraham and told him to leave his house and go on a journey. And that journey was going to lead him to the land that the Lord would give unto him and his seed for an inheritance. Now, this is Genesis 15:7. And he said unto him, I am the Lord. This is Yahweh. Now, remember, the earth belongs to Yahweh. The whole earth belongs to him. All right. I am the Lord that brought thee out of Ur of the Chaldees. Right. Now, Ur was one of those city-states that existed in the Chaldean region of land. Okay. You had Suba, you had Akkad. These were all city-states in that same region. To give thee this land to inherit it. And he said, Lord God, whereby shall I know that I shall inherit it? So the Lord himself is going to give unto Abraham a particular land to inherit. All right. Which he can, because guess what? The Most High, this is his earth. And he said unto him, take me an heifer of 3 years old, and a she-goat of 3 years old, and a ram of 3 years old, and a turtle dove, and a young pigeon. All right. And he took him all of these, which shows you they had their flocks ordered, man. They knew about their flocks. And divided them in the midst, and laid each piece one against another, but the birds divided he not. And when the fowls came down upon the carcasses, Abraham drove them away. And when the sun was going down, a deep sleep fell upon Abraham, and lo, an horror of great darkness fell upon him. And he said unto Abraham, know of a surety that thy seed shall be a stranger in a land that is not theirs, and shall serve them, and they shall afflict them 400 years. Now, that seed is talking about Israel, because the other nations that came out of Abraham didn't go into to Egypt to serve slavery. The chosen seed of Abraham was Isaac, and even unto Jacob. So Jacob is the seed of Abraham, not as the seeds of many, but as one, because we know that Abraham had 6 sons by Keturah. He had Ishmael, and he had Israel. But Israel is counted, Isaac is counted for the seed. And then even Isaac had Esau and Jacob, but then Jacob was counted to the seed. In fact, let me get something real quick. This is 2 Esdras 3:14. All right. You know, it's start for 13. So it says, now when they lived so wickedly before thee, thou didst choose thee a man from among them whose name was Abraham, which is obviously Abraham at the first. Him thou lovest, and him only thou shewest thy will. And madest an everlasting covenant with him. All right, so that covenant is still in effect. The covenant, all right, that the Lord made with Abraham. That covenant is an everlasting covenant, all right? Promising him that thou wouldest never forsake his seed. So that seed of Abraham, the Lord would never forsake that seed. And so you should understand why a Messiah had to be sent to deliver that seed, to fulfill the covenant the Lord made with that seed through their father Abraham. See, you read the book of Galatians, 3rd chapter, then you'll understand, all right? And unto him thou gavest Isaac, and Isaac, so you don't even mention the other lot. And unto him thou gavest Isaac, and unto Isaac also thou gavest Jacob and Esau. As for Jacob, thou didst choose him to thee, and put by Esau, and so Jacob became a great multitude. And it came to pass that when thou leadest his seed out of Egypt, thou broughtest them up to the Mount Sinai. So that seed of Abraham is the seed of Israel, okay? The seed of Abraham, his friend, all right? So back in Genesis the 15th chapter, it says, And when the sun was going down, a deep sleep fell upon Abram, which is Abraham. All right, Abram meaning exalted father. All right, and lo, and horror of great darkness fell upon him, and he said unto Abraham, know of a surety that thy seed shall be a stranger in a land that is not theirs, right? Because the land of Egypt belonged to the children of Mizraim. All right, that's their inheritance, and that's going to be their inheritance in the kingdom of heaven. Mizraim is going to possess the lands known as Upper and Lower Egypt. All right, because that is their actual inheritance from the Father. All right. Slakia. All right. And shall serve them, and they shall afflict them 400 years, which we know that history. And also that notion, whom they shall serve, that nation, sorry, whom they shall serve will I judge. Just like today. You see, the so-called white man, we're serving him right now. But the Lord is going to judge him. It's as simple as that. Esau try and get slick. Look, man, you represent the modern day Egyptian, man. And the same thing that happened to the Egyptian is going to happen to you. I don't know, man. Esau, he think he's special. Right? And afterward shall they come out with great substance, and thou shalt go to thy fathers in peace. Thou shalt be buried in a good old age. But in the 4th generation they shall come hither again, for the iniquity of the Amorites is not yet full. Now, when the Lord mentioned the Amorite, who are these Amorites? These are the peoples that possessed the land of Israel prior to Israel receiving that land as an inheritance. Now, why did the Lord say that we couldn't receive that land until the iniquity of the Amorites is fulfilled? Because through the iniquity of the Amorites, it was justification then for the judgment that the Lord had already cursed them to anyway, that they were going to be removed out of the Holy Land. Because you understand that the land of Israel isn't just any land. The land of inheritance, the specific borders of inheritance that the Lord set up for the nation of Israel, it ain't just any land like the Lord just spun his finger over the earth and just dropped it down and said, boom, at that. No, that land is a very special and land unto the Lord. The Lord had separated that particular piece of land to be holy. And that land abhors iniquity, man. If you aren't holy, you cannot dwell on that land. That land will spew you out. That land will put curses on you. You gotta be perfect in that land. Like, otherwise some real bad ish is gonna come your way. All right. So them Amorites, man, they were doing iniquity for the 400 years that Israel was in captivity in Egypt. Them Amorites and the Perizzites and they were doing nothing but wickedness in that land for generation after generation. And I'm gonna show you. And it shall come to pass that when the sun went down and it was dark, behold, a smoking furnace and a burning lamp that passed between those pieces. In the same day the Lord made a covenant with Abraham, saying, unto thy seed have I given this land, from the river of Egypt unto the great river, the river Euphrates. All right, so from the river of Egypt up unto the river Euphrates. All right, now that's known as Greater Israel today. That's why you got these so-called Jews. They got something called the Greater Israel Project, because the portion of land, if you look at the Israeli state, right. Right. If you look at the Israeli state, the Israeli state, it really only occupies a very small portion of the land which was promised to the children of Israel, or to the seed of Abraham. And that's why you got something called the Greater Israel Project, because these Gutterites, these Edomites, who are basically trying to take Jacob's blessing, they're trying to take the blessing of Jacob. They're trying to pretend to be us in order to justify them taking that which is ours. The blessing, part of the blessing of Jacob was to have the fatness of the earth. All right, but let me show you this Greater Israel Project. Right. So right now,
why do you think the remove?
Right now, you got to understand that the actual promised land, of the land of Israel, is being occupied by various different heathen nations, man. The various different heathen nations have portions of the Holy Land in their possession, including these Gutterite Israelis. But these Gutterite Israelis want the whole thing to themselves, and that's where you get the Greater Israel Project. So let's
of Saddam hasn't improved the lives of Iraqis, or has it? I don't know.
Well, I think if you really want to know the truth about the invasion of Iraq, there's clearly some incentives for the invasion. Oil, securing oil was one of them. Establishing permanent military bases in the region was another one. But a far less talked about reality is Israeli plans, which made clear that the balkanization of surrounding countries, in particular Iraq, if we go to Oded Yanan's plan for Israel in the 1980s, it lays out very clearly a strategy of destabilizing all of the surrounding areas of Israel. This includes Syria, Lebanon, Jordan, Iraq, and even Egypt and Saudi Arabia.
Fuck me. So Lebanon, Jordan, all these different Syria, all these different countries, part of their borders includes a portion of the promised land, that which is promised.
Allahu Akbar.
Sectarian divide you see happening in Iraq today, it's actually all part of a very well-designed plan to try and secure the goal, this fantasy goal of the Greater Israel Project.
There you go. There you go. So, you know, give or take, that's pretty much what because the portion of land that Israel was supposed to receive was massive. They never really even got everything that they were supposed to get, man. But we gonna get it in the kingdom automatically. All right. But Israel's borders is massive.
Okay, but why would Israel?
All right. But you see, right now, the land is in possession of the heathen, and you could go to Ezekiel the 36th chapter, and it's gonna break it down how all these different nations would possess portions of the Holy Land, including Esau, Edom. In fact, I'm gonna just read that because you know what, man. Yeah. Okay, Ezekiel 36:1, it says, "Also, thou son of man, prophesy unto the mountains of Israel." So this is talking about the actual land. "And say, ye mountains of Israel, hear the word of the Lord. Thus saith the Lord God, because the enemy have said on against you, aha, even the ancient places are ours in possession." So the ancient places, meaning all the places that we used to dwell in as the 12 tribes of Israel, these places are now in the possession of various different heathen nations in the Middle East. All right. It says, "Therefore prophesy and say, thus saith the Lord, because they have made you desolate and swallowed you up on every side." So when you really break it down, all of the land of Israel has been swallowed up by the different nations that were round about us. All right. That ye might be a possession unto the residue of the heathen, and ye are taken up in the lips of talkers, and are the infamy of the people. Because a lot of people, that land down there is always causing beef. Therefore, ye mountains of Israel, hear ye the word of the Lord. Thus saith the Lord God to the mountains and to the hills and to the rivers and to the valleys, to the desolate wastes and to the cities that are forsaken, which became a prey and derision to the residue of the heathen that are round about. Thus saith the Lord, there we go. I don't want to read too much, man. I'll read down here. Thus saith the Lord to the mountains and to the hills and to the rivers and to the valleys, to the desolate wastes and to the cities that are forsaken, which become a prey and a derision to the residue of the heathen that are round about. Therefore thus saith the Lord God, surely in the fire of my jealousy have I spoken against the residue of heathen and against all Idumea, which have appointed my land into their possession with the joy of their hearts, with despiteful minds, to cast it out for a prey. And that's why when you go down there to the Middle East today, what you're going to see is there we go. This is what you're going to see. You got the state of Israel, which is in brown, right? And then, you know, you got Jordan and all these countries and that are here, right? What you're going to find out is that these different nations all possess parts of the land, the Holy Land, right? And especially Idumea. Because this Israeli state right here is really a bunch of Idumeans, Edomites, that possess the Holy Land. All right, so that's the point on that. Let me jump back over where I am. So it says, Genesis 15. Genesis 15, it says, in the same day the Lord made a covenant of Abraham, saying, unto thy seed I have given this land from the river of Egypt, all right, onto the great river, the river Euphrates, the Kenites and the Kenizzites and the Kadmonites and the Hittites and the Perizzites and the Raphaims and the Amorites and the Canaanites and the Girgashites and the Jebusites, right? So all these different Canaanites, right, dwelt in the land of the Holy Land, right? And one tribe of the Mizraim, which was the Philistines. All right. So they were the original people on this side of the flood that were dwelling in the Holy Land. But guess what? they were brought out of that land so it could be given into as an inheritance from the Most High to the children of Israel. And the Lord can do that. Why? Because it's his. The whole earth belongs to him. He decides who owns what and who don't own what. All right. In fact, one of my favorite chapters in the Bible, man, Wisdom of Solomon, the 12th chapter, goes all into that. All right, so let's get that. And then you'll notice that once, when the nation of Israel were coming out of Egypt, the Lord never suffered Israel to take the inheritances of any of the nations that were round about the Holy Land, because that was their inheritance. Yeah, we were never in the spirit of unjust dealings, man. Everything has to be done in accordance with the spirit and the judgment of Yahweh Hashem Yahweh Shai. Right? So we're not just going to go around taking everyone's shit like Esau do, but what has been given to us as an inheritance has been given to us. Point blank, period. Wisdom of Solomon 12:1. For thine incorruptible spirit is in all things, therefore chastenest thou them by little and little that offend, and warnest them by putting them in remembrance wherein they have offended, that their leaving their wickedness they may believe on thee, O Lord. For it was thy will to destroy by the hands of our fathers both those old inhabitants of thy holy land. So it was the will of the Most High to destroy by the hand of our Israelite forefathers the old inhabitants of the Holy Land, that includes Jerusalem, which were the Jebusites, whom thou hatest for doing the most odious works of witchcrafts and wicked sacrifices. So for the 400 years that Israel was in Egypt, them Canaanites were doing the most odious works of witchcraft and wicked sacrifices. And also those merciless murderers of children, because they worship Molech, man. And part of the worship of Molech was child sacrifice, and devourers of man's flesh. They would eat the babies, man. They were doing all kind of madness. And the feasts of blood, right? Vampirism, with their priests out of the midst of their idolatrous crew, and the parents that killed with their own hands souls destitute of help, that the land which thou esteemest above all other might receive a worthy colony of God's children. Nevertheless, even those thou sparedest as men, and didst send wasps, forerunners of thine host, to destroy them by little and little. Not that thou wast unable to bring the ungodly under the hand of the righteous in battle, or to destroy them at once with cruel beast or with one rough word, but executing thy judgments upon them by little and little, thou gavest them place of repentance, not being ignorant that they were a naughty generation, and that their malice was bred in them, and their cogitation would never be changed. Meaning they were set up to just be wicked, and that was part of the curse which is put on Ham. And he said, "Cursed be Canaan." This was part of the curse upon Canaan, that they would dwell in the Holy Land, they would do evil and wickedness, and then they would be spewed out. For it was a cursed seed from the beginning. So when you go back to the book of Genesis and the situation where Ham was cursed, but the curse went on to Canaan, this was the fulfillment of the curse. When the Canaanites were being destroyed out of the Holy Land, that was a fulfillment of the curse. For it was a cursed seed from the beginning, neither didst thou for fear of any man give them pardon for those things wherein they sinned. All right? So the Lord gave the land of Israel, the Holy Land, to the holy people for an inheritance. It's not the inheritance of the Canaanites. And it's to this day, it's still the inheritance of the Israelites. That's never changed. The Lord has not given that land to be an inheritance to no other people. Right? Because everything is in decency and in order. In fact, this is 2 Esdras chapter 5 verse 23. And said, O Lord, that bearest rule of every wood of the earth, and of all the trees thereof, thou hast chosen thee one only vine. And of all the lands of the whole world, thou hast chosen thee one pit. And that's the Holy Land, the land of Israel. And of all the flowers thereof, one lily. And of all the depths of the sea, thou hast filled thee one river, which is the river Jordan, the holy river. And of all builded cities, thou hast hollowed Zion unto thyself, which is Jerusalem. And of all the fowls that are created, thou hast named thee one dove. And of all the cattle that are made, thou hast provided thee one sheep. And among all the multitudes of people, thou hast gotten thee one people, which is Israel. And unto this people, whom thou lovest, thou gavest a law that is approved of all. So the nation of Israel is the Lord's chosen people. And Jerusalem is his chosen city. And the land of Israel, the Holy Land, is the Lord's chosen land. You see? So it all links up. So when you see these so-called Jews, man, with a hard-on to establish Jerusalem as their capital city, right? We're going to come back over here. See, Jerusalem is supposed to be the capital city of Israel. But the problem is that they're not the Israelites. So everything they're trying to establish is going to come to naught, because that land is going to spew them out. So you can't fake the funk. If you are not the Israelites, that land is, you being in that land is temporary, is vain. So even if they do declare Jerusalem to be the capital of the Israeli state, even the Jebusites possessed Jerusalem at one point. Guess what? Where are they now? And the same thing is going to be said of these Israelis. Because the end of the deal is Jerusalem is going to be inhabited to the everlasting by those who are supposed to inhabit it and have it for an inheritance, which is the children of Israel. Right? These Israelis are trying to fake it out.
This is a historic day. Jerusalem has been the capital of the Jewish people for 3,000 years. We're profoundly grateful for the president.
First of all, Jerusalem is not the capital of the Jewish people. Jerusalem is the capital of the nation of Israel, which consists of more than 3 tribes. All right. And the guy here, if you watch the video, he goes in to show how even from our point of view, a biblical point of view, Jerusalem as being the centerpiece of the nation of Israel, it ain't been that way for a long time. Because the kingdom done been broken up and messed up for thousands of years anyway. But that don't mean that Jerusalem isn't going to be the future capital of the nation of Israel once we reestablish, man. Yeah, of course. But it ain't got nothing to do with no Jewish people.
For his courageous and just decision to recognize Jerusalem as the capital of Israel and to prepare for the opening of the U.S. Embassy here.
Hi everyone, today is Friday, May the 11th.
All right. And then, you know, this guy does a good job of going through like the history, man. He does an excellent job of going through the history. But the only thing he doesn't understand is that, yes, that Jerusalem and the land of Israel does belong to the children of Israel, man. Regardless of who's living there now, or who have ever lived there, or how long this person has lived there, the earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof, and the land for an inheritance has been given unto the seed of Israel. But you got to also understand that those so-called Jews calling themselves Israelis are not Israelites. So they don't have no claim to the land of Israel, just as much as the Palestinians who are not of Israelite descent have no claim. Because you got over there, you do have a small remnant among those different nations of actual Israelites. But if they're not Israelites, then they have no claim. It don't matter how long they've been living there, what religion they got, or what language they speak. If you're not of the seed of Israel, guess what? You are not part of that covenant. The Lord made a covenant with Abraham. And that land is part of that covenant. And it's an everlasting covenant. So that land will always belong to the seed of Abraham, as the Lord promised Abraham in faith. Point blank, period. Now, I want to jump to you. I mean, I would watch this whole thing, brothers, because he goes into a lot of good information, man. But like I said, I'm giving the spiritual aspect.
Destroyed Jerusalem. They razed it to the ground. Totally destroyed Jerusalem.
He's talking about 70 AD, which the Jews fled. Some of them fled up into Europe. All right. And that's how you had real Jews in Europe at one point. And then a lot of them fled into North, Central, and West Africa. The majority of them. Because Europe was where the enemy was coming from.
One stone was left on top of another. Destroyed the temple, destroyed everything, wiped it out. It was left desolate. And those Jews who were not slaughtered by the Romans, they fled into other lands, leaving Jerusalem
mainly
empty
Africa.
Of any significant Jewish presence until the 1900s, when the Rothschilds and their associates started the...
But the Rothschilds are not Jews. They're not Jews. They're not of the seed of Judah, Benjamin, or Levi. They're of the seed of Esau. And this is where the disconnection is happening. These people are not Israelites.
Zionist effort to swamp the region with Jews again, to justify the creation of a political state that they could control.
And that's exactly what it is. The Israeli state masquerading as some form of biblical, whatever they're trying to say. It's just a Rothschild colony, man. It's a European colony run by the Rothschilds so they can master the earth, man, and steal the blessing of Jacob.
So again, this is not so much a debate. I'm not giving you information that's really debatable. These are facts. These are facts acknowledged by both Jewish and non-Jewish scholars. And I defy any of you in my viewing audience to prove otherwise. Verifiable historical facts validate the points I'm presenting. So the claim that Jerusalem has been the capital of the Jewish nation for 3,000 years, it's a total lie. It's a fairy tale.
You know, and we could agree with that. You know, we could agree with that it's not been the capital for 3,000 years straight. I mean, come on, that's ridiculous. All right. But, you know, you wouldn't expect anything better from Benjamin, not a real Jew. I mean, the guy is a habitual liar, man.
It's propaganda that is meant to take advantage of gullible people who don't take the time to verify historical fact.
And prophecy.
It's propaganda used to manipulate the Christian Zionists who talk about the Bible. But
yeah, the number one supporter of the Israeli state, the murderous, villainous Israeli state, is the white evangelical Christian in America. These are the same people who support the Israeli state in their murdering of the Palestinians and others, and dropping bombs at will on anyone they feel like, treating anyone else that's not a so-called Israeli or so-called Jew like shit over there in the land of Israel. They support these people. Man. But the Hebrew Israelites, we don't kill no one. We don't murder anyone. We don't go around dropping bombs on people. We don't have no military with no nuclear weapons and all this stuff. But they got a problem with us, though. These same evangelical Christians, they'll put us under all forms of scrutiny, and they want to go into the scriptures and but then the Old Testament, the same scriptures we use. No, that's the Old Testament prophecy. Prophecy doesn't matter anymore, blah, blah, blah. But when it comes to the Israeli state, you know, anything goes, right? These people are the devil. They're the devil that the Bible speaks of, man. Why don't you put the Israeli state under the same level of scrutiny you try and put the Hebrew Israelites under? Yeah, I know you ain't going to do that, but you're going to support them no matter what. That's what Benjamin Netanyahu says. They know they can always rely on the support of the white evangelical Christian. And that's why a lot of people say, they always go for the Jewish vote. It ain't about the Jewish vote. The Jewish vote is a minority vote in America. The reason why these presidents come out and they always speak well of Israel is for the white evangelical Christian vote. Because once you speak well of Israel, you're going to get the white evangelical Christian vote, which is bigger than the Jewish vote. It's bigger. That's why they don't like to let you know that these so-called white people in America, they love the idea of the Israeli state. Meanwhile, the real Israelites, they call them niggers and wetbacks and oppress them in their country. The real Israelites. It's a big joke.
who don't actually read the Bible, because everything about the history of Jerusalem up until the time of Jesus, it's all confirmed right there on the pages of the Bible itself. So if we are going to have an honest conversation about the legitimacy of this claim of the modern Rothschild state of Israel to ownership of Jerusalem, we cannot settle the matter in the Zionist state's favor if we are just going to appeal to this historical ownership as precedent. Really, if anybody can claim the land, if anyone has a claim on the land based on historical precedent and presence in the land, it's clearly the Palestinian people who have a right to Jerusalem.
If you were going to do it like that. But guess what? The claim is based upon the word of Yahweh Hashem Yahweh Shai. See, we ain't got to go into, Jerusalem, this and that for thousands of years. And all that stuff for us, the Hebrew Israelites, don't matter. The claim we have to the land of Israel is quite simple. It goes back to a promise a covenant made with our forefather Abraham in Genesis the 15th chapter, and that's it. It don't matter who's been there for longest. All that stuff really doesn't matter, because the earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof, and the Lord hath determined that we as the Israelites, that land is our inheritance, and it's that simple. All right, now when the Palestinians make a covenant with the Most High which trumps that, then we could deal, or anyone else. But guess what? It's not going to happen, because the Lord said it's an everlasting covenant. So the Lord ain't going to override what he's already spoken. So good night.
Because the Palestinians and their ancestors, unlike the Jews, they have actually lived there continuously in the land.
It don't matter who's lived there continuously. It matters about who the Lord declared that land belongs to,
which today is called Israel. They've lived there for thousands of years non-stop. They've lived there far longer, by thousands of years longer,
so
as a much larger body of people than the Jews.
So
remember, the Palestinians they're not all Muslims. There are Christian Palestinians.
Religion has nothing to do with it.
A lot of them.
Religion
Palestinians are descendants of Father Abraham. Remember, they come through Abraham's son Ishmael.
Well, the Hebraic. Whoa. Whoa. Slow your roll, my man. That's why you gotta really kind of stick to what we like you for, man. I like this dude Jake, man, because he go in on that he be going in on that intelligence. But when it comes to this, man, this is the area for us, man. Let me help you out. Let me help you out there, bro. Ishmael ain't of the seed of Abraham, all right? The seed of Abraham is Jacob. We already went into it, bro. We already went into it, all right? So you got to stick to what you're good at, man. Don't try that, man. All right? Ishmael has no inheritance in the land of Israel, okay? Being a Hebrew don't give you an inheritance in the land of Israel. You got to be a Hebrew Israelite, okay? Hebrew Ishmaelite, all right? All right?
Jews are descendants of Abraham through Isaac. And yes,
it's not about the Jews. I don't like people keep talking about Jews, which I'll give him credit. He when he went through the whole history, he broke down the fact that Israel ain't just the Jews. And he broke down how the fact that the original Israel was divided among the different tribes. All right? And that's how it's going to go back to being.
There is favoritism in the Bible given to the line through Isaac. I don't dispute that.
Oh, thank you, Jake.
Now we could get into
Hey, yo, come on, Jake. Come on, man. Come on, bro. You got to keep it more real than that, man. Come on.
Discussion of the fact that relatively few of the Jews today living in the Zionist state, very few of them are actually blood descendants of Abraham.
Oh, no, but they are blood descendants of Abraham. They're just not blood descendants of Abraham through Isaac and Jacob. They're actually Edomites, man. But I'll give you half a point. I'll give you half a point, Jake.
Most of them are not. Most of them are Ashkenazi Jews. They trace their lineage to non-Hebrew people.
No. They are Hebrew people. The Ashkenazi Jews go back to the Khazarians, which are Edomites. All right, so they are Hebrews, man. All right, they are Hebrews, Jake. All right, but they're just not Hebrew Israelites. They're Hebrew Edomites. All right.
Lots of books written about this.
You can see why he's saying this shit. He's thinking, oh, they gonna come after me, boy.
Non-Hebrew people who converted to Judaism.
Oh.
To avoid being slaughtered by Muslim invaders.
Oh.
And DNA and genetic testing confirms this. It's proven it. So the claims being made by the...
We don't endorse DNA. DNA ancestry is BS, okay? We don't endorse that. All right.
These European Jews who are they're not the blood relatives of the Jews.
Oh, no, they're not Israelites. Oh, no, they're not Israelites. You're right on that, Jake. They're Edomites.
In the Bible. It falls flat if we approach the subject honestly. There certainly are. I'm not saying there are no Jews left that are descendants of the Jews in the Bible. There are.
Yeah, you probably walked past them, Jake. You probably walked past them, man. You know? You said, look at these niggas. Niggas.
But most of the people in Israel today are not those people.
Oh! I'll give you another half a point.
The claim that's being made by some that today's state of Israel, which consists mostly of these non-Hebrew Jews,
not
related by blood in any way to the Jews in the Bible, the argument that somehow they have a historical right to Jerusalem, but the Arab Palestinians don't, it's simply preposterous. By any standard, it's preposterous. We're talking literally about whether or not today's Jerusalem automatically belongs to the newly created Zionist state of Israel, because the city was the capital of a nation for less than 200 years. That nation ceased to exist around 2,800 years ago. I'm not going to get into the details of all the population, the demographics.
Because we don't care, man. At the end of the day, man, hey, Jerusalem belongs to the seed of Abraham, man. It's within our boundaries, man. And the Lord's gonna deliver that land back up onto us, man. You know, after these nations kill each other. Beautiful. All right, so I'm gonna, that's pretty much it on that, man. Trying to think if there was any preset. Let me have a look. Yeah, I think this scripture is fitting to end. Joel 3:19. Egypt shall be a desolation, and Edom shall be a desolate wilderness, for the violence against the children of Judah, because they have shed innocent blood in the land. And the children of Judah begins with the so-called Negro in America, and their descendants scattered throughout the four corners of the earth. But Judah shall dwell forever, and Jerusalem from generation to generation. So we're gonna be dwelling in Jerusalem again from generation to generation. For I will cleanse their blood that I have not cleansed, for the Lord dwelleth in Zion. So with that, I'm gonna say shalom.